the artist's part of that is, one, to be very sensitive to the nature of reality, either to know or to be in love with. They amount to the same thing, the nature of reality. That's one part of it. And the second part is to train the body and the mind. Why don't you, don't write, listen. Because if you understand what is being said, you can refer to your understanding. And if you forget it, all this is available on tape later. So you'll understand better if you listen. So that's the first thing. The artist must either know or be in love with, that is, be turned towards the reality of experience. But that by itself is not enough. Just being a lover of truth doesn't turn one into an artist, because one needs a body and a mind to make a work of art. So the body and the mind have to be trained in a particular form, music, painting, writing, whatever it is, so that the feeling understanding of the artist has a means of manifesting. So those are the two requirements of an artist. And if both of those requirements are present, chances are what is made or produced or created through the body-mind of the artist will deliver their understanding or their love. Will have the object that is created will have a kind of potency to it.
Does that potency somewhat depend on the viewer? I mean, there's no guarantee that the viewer will have that reaction, of course.
It's true that the viewer must be sensitive, but all viewers are ultimately pure sensitivity, pure awareness. So the separate self is like a film, an obscuring film around pure sensitivity. So depending on the thickness of this layer, the sensitivity may be dulled, and that will prevent us from recognizing this work of art. Now, that's one thing. It's also true that to recognize a work of art, sometimes a work of art by definition comes in a cultural package. So you may come across a work of art that is in a language, a cultural language, that is one in which you're not well versed, and that may make the work of art inaccessible to you. However, even in those cases, in most cases, a real work of art will cut through its cultural conditioning and will deliver its message, whether you know its language or not. So you listen to a late Beethoven string quartet, whether you're Chinese or African or uneducated or highly educated, certain objects have a kind of power within them that just cuts right through all cultural conditioning. Cézanne really expressed, and I know some of you have heard this quote before, so I apologize, but it's such a good and concise description of the role of the artist. He said, everything vanishes, falls apart, doesn't it? Nature is always the same, and yet nothing in her that appears to us lasts. Our art must render the thrill of her permanence, along with her elements, the appearance of all her changes. It must give us the taste of nature's eternity. So everything vanishes, falls apart. This so-called solid world, which we think has been here forever, all we know of it is fleeting perceptions. And how long does a perception last for? Everything vanishes. This apparently solid world vanishes every time a perception vanishes. In other words, the solidity of the world is always falling apart. Everything vanishes, falls apart, doesn't it? And then he goes on, nature is always the same. That's our experience, isn't it? We go outside, something about nature is always the same. And yet, all we know of nature disappears. Nature is always the same, and yet nothing in her lasts. How can nature always be the same when our experience of nature is only fleeting perceptions? What is always the same in our experience of nature? And then he says, our art must render the thrill of her permanence. By her permanence, he means that which is always the same. It would be better translated, the thrill of her ever-presence, that which is not everlasting, but ever-present. Our art must render the joy of that which is ever-present in nature. Our art must render the thrill of her permanence, along with her elements, the appearance of all her changes. Now, along with her elements, what did he mean? Her elements, sights, sounds, tastes, colours, textures, smells, all the things that go into the making of the appearance of nature. Our art must render the thrill of her permanence along with her elements, the appearance of all her changes. In other words, the artist needs to take that which is ever present in nature, and then he takes all her appearing, all the elements. In Cézanne's case, colour. In Beethoven's case, sounds. In a writer's case, words. So you take the appearance of all her changes, her elements, and you arrange these in such a way that they evoke what is ever present in nature. And then he ends, our art must give us the taste of nature's eternity. The taste, it must deliver into the body the taste, not the idea, the taste. What could be more intimate than that? The taste of that which is ever present in our experience. Pure knowing. Nature's eternity. That is the role of an artist. That is the job, or let's say it's the highest role of the artist. The most sacred function of the artist. So there's something to aim at when you get back to your studio.